Hi, Andrea and Alina. This should be our third video for testimonies. It could go long, it could go short.
We're still on my testimony, and it's going to be a while, so I think I'm on my
Part
second
2.
leg of my 5 or 7 part testimony thing. So it's going to be a little while before Alina gets to hers, but you'll understand the connection between the demonic activity of my
Coming to Christ.
Of my family and from generations of my of the family and generations in the family, and how it's led to Alina and a lot of other things. But Alina is just the physical manifestation of what demonic I don't know if you would call it oppression or possession would be. I kind of feel like it's possession but I don't know if a person that's possessed can be unpossessed, or maybe it's just oppression. So anyway, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So,
well,
if you have any comments...
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it. So a lot of the kids and things that were possessed by demons in Jesus' time were freed of those demons. So you can be possessed and then also have those decide to not have those demons. So what I'm saying is Alina could have been possessed by demons and to cause this whole thing.
You gotta stay down. So if you have any comments for questions or tips on how to do this channel and the videos, we don't know a lot of technology stuff. And
Oh, dog, sorry.
Sorry, hold on. Okay,
there you go.
Alright, I guess Chex is going to be in the video for a little while. So yeah, questions, tips on how to do this. I just don't want her to be a distraction. Alright, so we want to pray before we start continuing my mom's testimony. Okay, go ahead, Mom.
Father God in heaven, I ask that you give us your Holy Spirit, that the Holy Spirit that dwells within us, that we are open to it, that we let it shine your light through us, so that we can for God's glory, for your glory, so that we can be the light, and you draw people to yourself through us, in your Son Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I think I had left where I was in foster homes and had run away from my dad, and one thing that I forgot to say, I think, is how severe the beatings that we would get as children, and how my dad, or how the church, or how the biblical teachings kind of swayed us. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. So when we were growing up, we heard a lot about the tribulation and the horribleness of it. I didn't understand it then. So my dad would beat us literally with a board about 4 inches by about, I don't know, 1.5 foot, wooden, obviously, He would make us, and my stepmom would do it too, but it was more my dad. But he would make us lay over the table, his bed, which was a water bed, which is what they had. I guess he had it to, the time I left, I mean, it started out as short as maybe a couch, maybe a little bit higher, and we would have to lean over that, and he would beat us on our butts and leave bruises. And we're talking, I would, every time it was time for me to go get a spanking, for various reasons, I would beg my older sisters and brothers to come in, because I don't know if I thought that they were going to stop my dad from hitting me, or because we all got beatings, and I used to think like, oh, I wish the tribulation would come now so I wouldn't have to endure this. That was just one thing. Another thing, the demonic influence in my life came very early and from books. I loved to read because it took me out of my surroundings. I didn't have to think about what was going on. But I didn't really get seriously involved in later in life. I seriously got involved with reading. I loved to read just because I could paint the pictures in my mind about what was going on in the stories. So I think I was in the 4th grade, maybe around that age, where that we were going to the library, and there was a book about ghosts in the library, and I brought that home, and my dad beat me from the middle of my calves to the middle of my back, black and blue, because I brought this book home. I didn't understand why he didn't like it, but I will say that I'm not grateful for the beating, but I am grateful that that was the first understanding of demonic influences that I had, like a horrible experience, because my dad, even though the church was horrible, the understanding of demonic influences, demonic spirits, demon stuff, I was learning that, even though that church was, in my opinion, demonically inspired. I learned then that those things were bad. And I also learned during that time when I was growing up that allowing yourself to be open to the spirits, like to do, what is it, where they tell you to, where they like hypnotize you and things like that, that was also a way to allow the demons in. We never did like the Ouija boards and stuff like that, but that was a part of the occult, and I'm grateful that my dad and that church taught us that. So in my experience, you have to, there's even in circumstances with like this church, this cult that I was involved with, and a lot of the mental health things that I went through in life, there are some good things that you can take out of them, and but most of it is not. But like I was terrified of, in my later years, which is like stage 3 or 4, I don't know. I didn't want to be hypnotized. There were a lot of mental health things that told you to clear your mind and just let whatever comes in come in. And I was terrified of it because I knew what that would lead to, according to what I was taught. And as I learned now later, it allows you to be demonically inspired. I didn't realize how it's one of those things that I wrote in that little memoir of mine, was that I'm grateful of all the horrible things that my dad did. I'm grateful that I did have the ability to learn that he taught that, or the church taught that, and I learned that not to let myself be overtaken by those kinds of things. Okay. So now I've gone to, from yesterday, I'd gone to foster homes. I was in these foster homes by myself. All the rest of my family was gone. I had been living with my dad for, I don't know, 6 months to 9 months. I don't know the amount of time. So it was, again, a culture shock, because we were so isolated. When we were growing up, although we had, I had 2 brothers that I knew of, and 2 sisters, and then my stepbrothers and sisters. We all were at least it was me, maybe it was just me, but we all kind of grew up kind of not interacting with each other because of how hostile it was. So I had my own little bubble. I interacted there with, but I was in my own little bubble. I didn't seek comfort. I didn't it was just, I went off by myself, and just, we lived on 10 acres and way up on this hill, and I would just go by myself and just wander around, just because I was trying to figure out what's going on. Of course, you can't really. Anyway, so the culture shock and the depression and all of those things led into the foster homes that I was in, and so I would run away from these foster homes, and eventually I got tired of that, because they're responsible. These foster parents are responsible. They're supposed to be responsible for the foster kids, and so if one runs away, it doesn't look good on them. But eventually one of my aunts, not the same one that took my brother, but one of my aunts requested that I come live with her. I think like what I said yesterday, I don't think it was something that she really wanted to do, because we were not a very hygienic family, to be honest. I can remember at one period I had, growing up, none of the kids at school wanted to play with me because for some reason I kept getting pink eye. And our church would have these chicken picking things, and I would get not lice, but foul mites, and they looked like lice in my hair, and my hair would just be covered in them. So nobody wanted to play with me. I mean, that makes sense, It was, I only had church friends, huh?
Rough.
Yeah, I had church friends, and even they were, it was very, we were not people that you want to hang around, just like that. I mean, I would have strings of, I could take a hair and I would go like this during class, and I would take a string of little chicken, that foul my chicken mites off my hair. It was just disgusting. I mean, what do you do? Anyway, so and that was like in 3rd or 4th grade. So, okay, now, my aunt, made, made the arrangements for me to come live with her. Okay, she's bringing this very dirty child into her house.
How old were you?
Oh goodness, I was 13, 14.
13, 14.
Yeah, I had started my period. I started my period at 10, and I thought I was dying because all of a sudden I had blood coming out. My oldest sister told me, no, but that's about it. I don't remember any kind of like, okay, this is what you do, this is how, I don't remember any of that. So, again, the hygiene. I went to go live with my aunt, and again, the culture shock. But on top of that, she also went to this church, and like I said before, she could not force me to go to this church. Going back again to that time. I quit when my dad got excommunicated. So we had these children, like during services, they'd have YOU and YES, like young adult things, that the kids in the class or in the church would go to while there were this started later in the whole church thing, because I remember sitting through the whole 3 hours of church. You had to sit there very quietly, and you learned how to laugh silently. I learned how to laugh silently. Anyway, so the later, when I was like 13 or 12 or 13, they started having these YOU, YES things, and we were learning about the Bible. And one of the things that I remember, it was they had red letter Bibles, and it was Jesus speaking. And one of the things I remember is, well, if Jesus is speaking, isn't that important? Because at that time, the church didn't believe that Jesus was God. They believed that he was a good prophet. Now, from talking with my sister, my oldest sister, I understand that now the church believes that Jesus was made a God. So he wasn't God to begin with, but now he was made a God. So first you're Jehovah's Witness. So Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, we had to go to church on Saturday, the Sabbath. And so because Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe that Jesus is God, they believe that he's a good prophet.
Did you go to church Saturday and Sunday, or
No,
only
just Saturday.
Saturdays?
Just Saturday. And so now they are getting also into Mormonism, where people can be made gods, because that's literally what she was explaining to me, that Jesus was made a God. He was born from a woman, and he was made a God. Not that he was a God that came down and was birthed through a woman. That he was both human and God. So now they're stepping into the realm of Mormonism, where
They're mixed religion.
Yeah. So now you can attain godhood by living righteously, but I mean, the Bible says there's no one good.
Yeah, because they're not Worldwide Church of God anymore. They're a different name.
Yeah, they're, I think, International Church
So
of
now
God
they're
or something.
and it's been years that they've been
Yeah.
teaching things, so they're a whole different.
Yeah, so it's like the Bible said God never changes, but apparently
And you've grown
they
up in
are.
that. Your family grew up in that church for very long time.
Right.
So now she doesn't know how to leave it. Your oldest sister doesn't know how to leave it.
Yeah.
Or believe something else.
Or she just chooses to. Well,
Yeah.
one of the last things she said to me was that she was taught these things. She didn't say she learned these things. She said that she was taught these things. So being taught and learning to me are two different things. Yeah, you're being taught, but when I was in college and I literally had to quit because it was just a regurgitation meal. They wanted you to like learn something and then be able to regurgitate it, even if it wasn't true or you couldn't put it into it didn't make sense.
Intellectual.
And it was a regurgitation mill, and so that's what I feel like when she said I was taught. She didn't say I learned or I am learning or because a lot of this.
She's not learning for herself.
Yeah,
she's just taking.
She's not being a Berean. She's just like, well, they must have said that they're saying this, so it must be real.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so sorry, I will probably do that often, but so now I'm at my aunt's house, and like I said, very.
And don't forget, you said something last time about when you got to the city, it was like freedom.
Well, yeah, but that was the first time, and so it was a totally different because it was in a whole different state, a whole different climate. Where I grew up, it was cool, more green. Where I was going to was hot and very very little rain.
I just wanted to bring up that I don't know if you brought that up in the last video about when you got to the city, it was more freedom because you could have the ability to go do things, but I don't remember if you brought it up last video, but I know when the first time we recorded it. Anyways, go ahead.
So now I'm at my aunt's house. Like I said in the last video, she was more stable financially. She had a husband and like I said, I got my grade point average was 0.75. I would go and right across the street from the school, there were apartments, and first I started out hanging out with these girls from Hawaii. They had this long black hair, and they had I'm white and their skin was brown, and they were so cool looking, and then again my stuff started showing through, and I was about, it's really crazy, but I didn't know how to be a friend with anybody other than to be provocative. That's all I knew. That's what I'd been taught, and so.
Speaking of taught, like your sister.
What do you mean?
She said that's what I was taught.
Oh yeah, and anyway, so my aunt, she didn't know what to do with me. She couldn't take me to church. She couldn't make me do things, and I was literally running around just trying to fit in with any to use my sexuality to fit in, because and even though I would, and sometimes I would, it didn't feel good. It just so eventually I got further and further and deeper into very questionable situations. I don't think a lot of the things that I was getting into, I never got into drugs when I was there. It's just I was looking for someone that would appreciate that. Well, I wouldn't say appreciate, but I didn't know any other way to act. I'll just put it like that. Eventually, I mean, okay, at one point there were, next to where my aunt and uncle lived, they lived in these like one-story apartments. Really nice apartments. I mean, they were cute and, you know, much different than I had ever lived in. And there was a male and female volleyball thing. There was a park down the street, and I would go and for some reason, I can pick out guys that just like that had no interest in me other than sex. So I set my sight on this guy, and eventually he just took me out to this place and left me. He had sex with me and kind of just left me. It was like way out in the middle of where we lived was really arid, but in the outskirts, in the city that we lived in, it was really arid, but in the outskirts were farmland. I mean, they had a lot of irrigation, and but there was also a lot of dirt and stuff, and I got picked up by some people, and and these are the places where I say that I could have been just killed and just but God was with me, and I was raped and forced to do drugs. It didn't have an effect on me, though. I think it was cocaine. It was white powder. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it was. I didn't know. So from that point on, I was kind of I didn't go back to my aunt and uncle's, just because I kind of knew it was over. There was they weren't going to accept me back. I did go back. So I think my aunt and uncle called the police, and they put me into a juvenile hall or juvenile living situation. My aunt and uncle did try to help me. They got me involved in like a young entrepreneur thing. I didn't know how to work like that. I didn't know.
I just want to say, this is raw testimony, and so whoever can relate, this is how she came to Christ. So she came to Christ with this raw testimony.
Well, it took me many years.
Many years to learn, to think she was saved, and then find out she wasn't. And I'm just saying, this is raw testimony. That's why it's
raw.
It's some things she's going to mention that is a little, yeah. And
you don't mention in polite society.
Yeah, that you don't mention in polite company. Okay. Yeah, and this is for people that could have a similar testimony and don't see how God's involved with this. But your walk has brought, my mom's walk is showing you there is a God that's helping.
Okay. So this is the second stage of my my walk, my life. So
BC days.
yeah. So obviously the police picked me up. I honestly I don't remember. What I do remember ended up happening after being raped and doing these drugs. I wasn't hurt or anything, but I ended up going into being in this house, in this little shack thing, with a man and a woman, and it seemed like there were kids around, and for some reason I was exhausted. I was coming off the drugs. I mean, it didn't affect me in that I just like went crazy, but apparently it affected me in some way. I remember laying on this couch and just like being unable. I was exhausted. And I don't remember how I got away from there, but I just started walking, and I found this country guy, and he picked me up, and he took me to his house, and I thought he was gonna take care of me. He told me to get out in a couple of days. He was done with me. So again, I'm walking.
Yeah, he had a wife.
No, he didn't have a wife. I was picked up. I was starting to get closer to town because it was a long way out there.
So what is this man and wife and shack?
No, I had walked away from there somehow I had gotten away from there.
And then another guy and with country guy?
Yeah, some kind of country guy. Like,
I'm trying to put the
not
order
country, not country as in the country, but country as in he listened to country music, and he let me stay in his place.
Okay, so
for a day or two.
So the shack with the guy and his wife
and the kids. There were kids. For some reason, there were kids around.
Okay, and then you had to leave there.
I took off. I don't.
Okay,
exactly.
So you took off, and then this country music listening guy found you, and you thought he was gonna help you.
And he just used me and said, "Now you gotta go." So but it was closer to town, and I'm walking around, and this other guy, who was working in some kind of a business or something wherever I was, he let me stay in his car. And so I'm just like, no bath, no nothing. So you can imagine, yeah, it was not something that pretty disgusting. Anyway, so he let me stay in his car, and I don't remember I think this guy, again, there was rape and drug use. Eventually, either the police picked me up, or I went back to my my aunt's house, and eventually they put me into a youth, not prison, but a youth place where they didn't lock everything up. And I'll tell you how I know that in a minute. But it was a place for troubled youth. It wasn't like a
not jail.
Not jail. Yeah, thank you.
Or kid jail, whatever.
It was a juvenile detention or anything like that. It was some kind of a troubled youth place. But I was in there with these people, and I was getting showers and doing all this kind of stuff that you needed to do. But
how did you get there?
I think the police picked me up, or my aunt and uncle.
This is after that country guy.
Yeah, all of that, yeah. So I'm in this detention place, and there was another girl there, and her and I would try to wear the tightest clothes we could wear. So I'm still
a prostitute. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't a prostitute then. I was still in this mode of I need to, used my
body.
sexuality to get somewhere. So I don't know. I mean, they had wide open fields with grass, and they didn't have, for some reason they didn't have, I think they had alarms on the doors, but they didn't have locks on the gates surrounding this detention for whatever reason. So basically, we learned that you could just walk out of this detention center. It was, and if you could get away, and if they wouldn't search for you or something. So we did that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was
What state was this in?
California.
California.
Yeah, so we ended up going from, I remember, I think,
You and that girl.
yeah, we got on the bus, we got rides in Sacramento, I think. I mean, we were on our way to becoming prostitutes. And I was 15, 16. Yeah, so her and I mean, we if we felt weird about something, we would walk away from a situation. But we ended up going to some high place. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was Phoenix. Maybe it was not Phoenix, Arizona, but Arizona, where there was high country. Somebody paid for us a bus ticket to get to Reno, Nevada.
Wow, from California, Sacramento to Reno.
Yes.
Someone paid for that. You
Yeah.
too. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
One way then.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly how it happened. I mean, a lot of the times, you know how disassociation, a lot of the times I was unaware of how I got from one place to another.
Yeah.
I just but again, God was watching over me. I was in the
He's
situation.
allowing all this to happen while trying to get to you. This is just part of life. Like Israelites, when you want me to
Go ahead, no harm.
like the Israelites or just any person in the Bible, you're gonna go through all this mess because we're sinners. We want to do what we want to do and think what's gonna help us.
Right.
We don't see a good.
Yeah, it's a pride issue. I don't want to do what you want me to do because it just
That, but you also don't know God. So
Right.
you don't know,
Well,
how can I trust if you're going to give me this? And then now
right. Yeah.
So it's from Old Testament Bible continues to current day.
Well, and that's how Satan works. He will, like John Barnett says stuff like he inoculates
What does
people. Like he'll give you just a little dose of being a Christian, and then you feel like you're Christian, or that little dose. Like I know a lot of people that have been in the around Christian people that have just treated them horribly, and so they want nothing to do with God because these people that have they've been around have treated them horribly. Kind of like I'm grateful that they didn't treat me right because I might have continued in that religion, but that's how Satan works.
But you also had your own. God was probably intervening with all sorts of thoughts and just.
Oh yeah, I mean, I always had a conscious, like I always felt horrible about doing what I was doing, but
you still did it.
I still did it anyway. So I'm in Nevada, and
with this girl. Yeah.
With this girl, and we get. I mean, this was probably the first pimp that we had, and we were very young. I mean, there are kids that go into this stuff way younger. I mean, so my story is just like probably old hat for a lot of
Generic.
yeah, not generic, but just like, okay, yeah, well, there are people that have really bad, worse stories than you have, okay? So, but so, and this is another graphic thing. So, this guy would lay in bed with both of us, and he would like use sex to like if he was gonna have sex with me that night, the other girl would be laying in the bed, or at that time I would feel like, oh yeah, he wants to have sex with me, so I'm okay, so sex was used like that. I guess I'm now
manipulation.
Yeah, and I kind of like was it Isaac when Jacob, was it Jacob that had Hannah or Rachel and Leah, and
I think so. Jacob.
Yeah, where they would use, it felt like, well, he's with me tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
That kind of thing. So I'm trying to think. Oh, one of the things when I was in with my aunt, and they had put me into this juvenile detention center, which is, I mean, to me is totally understandable. They cannot help me, but the government's not going to help you either, or anyone. The government didn't help me either. But one of the things she called me was incorrigible. I don't know if she knew that I knew what that word meant.
What does that mean?
It means you can't be helped.
Okay. And who said that?
My aunt.
Okay.
My aunt said that about me. She said she was incorrigible.
And you knew what that meant at the time?
Yeah, I don't think that she thought that I knew what that meant. But
you,
one of the things, my stepmom was a very smart woman, and I would have this homework, and she would not help me with my homework. She would help me with it, but she would not
be patient.
No, she would not do it for me. She would she would make me read. She would not tell me what the word meant. She'd say, well, what does that word mean in context to the rest of the sentence? Kind of like what you do in the Bible, so, what does this situation mean in context with the rest of the Bible? So, I mean, I'm grateful to her for that, because that's how I learned to read, and that's how I started to enjoy reading, just by being able to picture these things and understand what I'm reading. So anyway, and again, there were many situations that I got into, like many
Your aunt
cities.
was calling you corrigible.
Oh yeah, that was back when I was in.
Well, I thought you were trying to figure out where you left off.
No, I left off where I was in
Nevada.
Reno, yeah.
And then you said your court with your.
Huh?
Court with your aunt.
Oh wow. Wow. No, I didn't go to court with my aunt.
It was something about court.
Yeah. Okay. So. Oh wow. Yeah. This is I have to remember how these things went, because I've been in juvenile detentions or juvenile halls all up and down that West Coast. They found me. I don't know where they found it. I don't remember anything.
Who's they?
The police. We had done all this running.
After Nevada and the pimp.
Yeah. So they were going to send me back to Oregon. And I did not want to. I didn't want to go, but I was in they put me in put me in another juvenile hall. So I'm in another one. I don't remember where it was or anything like that. I just remember they put me on a plane. I had a backpack and I had a change of clothes, and that was all that I had. So I was wearing one set of clothes when I got on the plane. They literally brought me to the airplane in cuffs, and I had a jacket, so they put the jacket over my cuffs, and I'm just walking, and they put me on the airplane, and they sent me on an airplane to PDX.
From where?
From California. I don't remember the airplane. For some reason I think it's Sacramento. So they took the cuffs off me, and I'm walking on the airplane because I'm a young girl. Nobody wants to see a young girl in handcuffs. But again, it's one of those God things. So I change in the middle of the flight. So the people that are going to be waiting for me at this airport have an idea that I'm going to be wearing one set of clothing when I.
And it's supposed to be like orange or something.
No, they didn't. I wasn't in any kind of jumpsuit. I have my own personal clothing. So I come in with one set of clothing, get on the plane wearing this outfit. When I get off the plane, I'm wearing a totally different outfit, and they don't know who to look for. I mean, this was before all of this screening and all that stuff was going on. This was just when
19 what?
80 no, 86,
1986.
85, 86 or 85, something like that. So again, I'm free. Freedom is expensive. So how many minutes have we been doing this?
47 minutes.
I think we're gonna cut it short for today.
Okay, well, find a good ending spot. So
I'm on the plane. So I get off the plane in Portland.
In
a
regular
totally different
clothes.
outfit. Nobody knows who I am. I just start walking, and if you
didn't have handcuffs when they took you off the airplane?
No, they put me on. When I got on the plane in California, they took off the cuffs.
Okay, hold on. So you're wearing regular casual clothes with handcuffs on, covering it up in California when they got you on the airplane. And when you got...
They took off the cuffs.
And then they let you walk off the airplane?
I changed my clothes in the middle of the flight.
Okay, so this is like a big airplane, not just like a... Like this is
not a helicopter or something like that. This is like
but like an airplane. Like there's other people.
Yeah.
Like other citizens.
Yeah.
Doing their regular thing.
Yeah.
Because like, how did they not keep track of you on the airplane?
I don't know what they were thinking. I'm probably one of the reasons why the kids have to have, escorts. Like, okay, we know you. I mean.
Okay. And so, we'll just leave it there. Continue her testimony. It's pretty. It's like a story, like a movie. This is where we're gonna cut this episode of the next on a cliffhanger. I don't know, but no, it's her testimony, raw testimony. It
gets raw. It doesn't. It's
you get what raw. You're hearing.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Okay, and then
but God can make
it all happens for a reason.
God can make the ugly parts beautiful. And
so you are at this airport in Portland now, and then we find out what happens, continues on with your story, your life events.
The next episode.
Okay, later.
Okay.
Yeah, so any comments, questions, tips, whatever you want to say in the comments. Take you.
Until next time.
Until next time, signing off.
Alright, go ahead.
Have a good one. Take care. Okay, and